Good morning, boys. How's
Hello.
everything going? Simon, Burge, good to see you. We've got the countdown clock now, so people aren't just waiting in anticipation to see what happens. There's actually a countdown clock, which is obviously good news. How you guys been? How's your week been?
Burge, how's yours?
I mean, it's been good. I mean, there's some crazy stuff on the tunnel. I was just saying it before we went live. Like, when I was doing some research ahead of this show. You know, there's a lot happening in the world. Let's just say right now, but we'll dive into it all in a bit. How was your weekend, Simon?
It's been good, actually. I said to Jayden, I might have mentioned to you, Burge, I'm currently sitting in Norway's largest bank's headquarters.
Oh yes, you said, yeah.
Having just run a couple of sessions on having courageous conversations, and now I have had the gall to rent. I'm actually speaking quietly because I'm actually in a little room, and if they knew I was streaming on NFTs and not doing
talking about NFTs and crypto as well
on the world of training and coaching, they'd probably throw me out and I'd lose the contract. But there you go, it's worth it.
Simon, I love your exaggerations, mate. That's brilliant. But actually, very good effort booking a meeting room. I really appreciate that, my man. You did say as soon as we got off, you made mention of my haircut. Obviously yesterday I went to a different barber's. I thought, you know what, let me try something different. And he just kept on cutting it. He kept, like, he was on the same spot shaving it like that. I was like, mate, you could probably stop. You could probably stop now. He just kept on going. But look, I'm going to go with it. It's called a skin fade. He's done it quite high, but do you know what? We're just going to roll with it. And
actually, you look younger.
Thanks, bud. Actually, you're the
I was going to say
that.
Take it with you on dates. That's what I can say.
Oh, we're going to get into the dating chat again, are we?
No, we won't. Look at my
well,
hair.
My hearing's a bit better now.
Back, by the way.
What's that?
Look, I had my hair shaved so much it never came back.
Do you have to use a razor on yours?
I'm pathetic. I don't do it. I say to my children, right, I'm going to the hairdressers, and they say, why? And I say, because I've got to get my hair cut. And they said, but there isn't anything to cut. I said, but there is, because the woman I go to see twice a month does all the shaving for me. And they always say, but why don't you do it at home? Because I can't see the back of my head.
Yeah, I think
but also it's the experience, isn't it? But you must relate.
Yes, yeah. I think getting your haircut is a very nice experience, generally speaking. And you feel like when you come out, you feel like, well, if you're happy with the job that the barber's done, you feel, refreshed. You feel like you're ready to go, and then it slowly fades into like oblivion. Like in the next 2 weeks, like you start to look more disheveled, and you're like, oh, this is fine. And then a month passes, and you're like, oh no, gotta go back again.
Can I just say,
I know what you mean.
What would you do if I suddenly turned up one day with a toupee?
Simon, you can be whatever you want to be, mate. What you do on your weekends is your business, bud.
Oh, I dress up.
We're gonna have pronouns in our names soon. I'm just throwing that. We'll refer to Simon as they and them. Anyway, guys, for the 8 people that are listening, today's going to be a good one. We're obviously going to cover some of the stuff that's happening in Iran. Unfortunately, we've got to talk about it because it does impact Bitcoin prices. We're going to talk about NFTs, crypto, some of the stuff that's happening in the Punk Strategy or TokenWorks ecosystem, OpenSea. So there's lots of good stuff to chat about. There are 8 of you in the live stream. These usually pick up quite nicely. They sort of get up to 2, 3, 4, 500 people. They do really rely on people sharing it. So wherever you are, please just repost this. We're going to repost it in our private chats. If you've got any WhatsApp groups, anything like that, just repost it in there. I'd really appreciate it. Obviously, we see the numbers picking up. There's something about this X algorithm which I just do not understand. As soon as I say Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, blah blah blah, it must tickle the algorithm's ballsack or something and then send it out. And then all of a sudden, so maybe in the first, I don't know, 5 minutes of this, guys, we don't talk about haircuts and dating. We talk about we just sit here and say Bitcoin, and then Bird, you say crypto, and then maybe Simon, you say NFTs, and we can have pom poms and everything. It'd be great. I don't know how good that would be.
I feel like that makes sense. Like the algorithm, I feel like that would work. The same keyword.
Yeah, I know. But guys, anyway, obviously it's been absolute carnage with a whole bunch of things happening. Now, we're obviously three Brits across the pond. I don't want us to delve too deep down the rabbit hole of politics and war because we're not experts on it. But we can certainly give our opinion on what's happening. My view is, obviously we had the Iraq war, which was a complete mess. We were involved in that for like 20 years. At the time, there was no, I guess, for me personally, I wasn't investing in markets or anything like that. It was such a long time ago. I was a kid. But now we've got skin in the game, and obviously the kind of geopolitics and the stuff that's happening abroad directly impacts cryptocurrency prices. And when this stuff happens, you're like, shit, and you're trying to figure out how long it's going to last for. You're kind of checking Polymarket to see if this war's going to last for like 2-3 months. There's a lot of people, especially on the Republican side, talking about it being political suicide for Donald Trump. There's other people saying, look, if he pulls this off, he'll go down in history. There's all these things. I look at it from a real self-interest point of view, which is I want my crypto to go up. One, I want to obviously be safe as well. I've got my personal opinions on certainly the UK and Keir Starmer not helping out Donald Trump and all these sorts of things. I think we should, I think the US are allies and all these sorts of things. But do you guys have any opinions about what's happening at the moment? How do you think it'll kind of impact crypto prices, certainly in the short to medium term? Anything, Simon or Burge?
Go for it, Burge.
Burge, you're on mute. Burge, you're on mute.
So overwhelmed by the subject.
Yeah. I was coughing.
Honestly, that 20-second speech you just gave, honestly, it's going to go down.
It was fire. But no, I do think it's kind of, I mean, it's interesting because Trump, I think he came in right to office and campaigned off the back of, we're not going to start these wars. We're going to, he was going for the Peace Prize. He was trying it. That was one of his personal ambitions, was the Nobel Peace Prize. And what he settled with was the FIFA World Peace Prize. Well, so I saw a tweet the other day. It might be yesterday, actually, when I was doing the research. And it was basically saying, well, since he's become the World Peace Prize, like he got given the World Peace Prize by FIFA, he's abducted the president from Venezuela. He's waged war on Iran. It's like, well, he's kind of bucking what he's saying. He's not kind of following suit on what he's campaigned on or what he's promised American people, which is, I think a really interesting point if you're American right now is, you really wouldn't want to see troops be deployed. That's a bigger step, I think, in a war. Troops on the ground, like US troops on the ground, and those lives being at risk, would be a bigger step. But from the stuff that I've seen on the timeline, this isn't as, despite obviously US and Israel working together, they have more military might than Iran. But I've seen some pushback in terms of how Iran can make this bad for the US, in terms of elongating it, in terms of, having drones hit like major facilities or just trying to stop the ships in the Strait of Hormuz, how they can kind of try and grind the economy, the global economy, to a halt and make this expensive and costly for the US. So it's an interesting decision by Trump to go in, but you have to assume that there is some intelligence or some reason, like good reason behind it, you'd hope.
Yeah, 100%. Simon, just before you jump in there, just for the 46 of you, because there's all of a sudden jumped up in viewership, do me a massive favor, wherever you're listening to this, please just give it a repost, share it in whatever WhatsApp you've got. If you're listening on X, please just give it a repost. Would really appreciate that. Simon, just going to flick on to you. The impact of Bitcoin pricing has been really interesting because
I'm just looking at it.
it's stabilized. I think before this kind of mini, I guess we call it a mini war or whatever, before it started, there was some kind of scandal around the Jane Street manipulation, which will which will kind of come on to. But when the Ukraine war started, Bitcoin showed like really good strength. And when the Silicon Valley banking collapse happened, Bitcoin showed really good strength. Now what you're seeing in Iran, there was some data to show that a lot of Bitcoin in Iran is moving to self-custody. So it's moving off of exchanges. So what I guess the kind of the behavior pattern is when in times of war, it's kind of seen as a flight to safety. And when Russia had all of those sanctions placed on it, Bitcoin was the flight to safety and everything was moving to self-custody. So it's really interesting to see that actually it may show relative strength, especially in a downturn when you don't really know what's going to happen. Have you got any thoughts around that? Or
well, it's just
one kind of move on from the war thing.
Yeah, of course. It's interesting that late last year when gold was going mad, crazy, silver followed, that and I got a sense that then that was also a kind of flight to safety, in that there is something that is tangible and limited and something that people can invest in and get away from the fiat system. Bitcoin didn't, of course. It went the other way. Now this time it's what, 71,400 and something, just in this last day or two. So I'm curious to know why in a war situation it reacts like this, but gold had its moment last year. I'm sure people have got many answers for this, but how is gold doing is another thing I might ask right now. Is it just peculiar right now to Bitcoin? Is that what's happening particularly with Bitcoin? The other thing I was going to say is, would it have anything to do with the fact that Trump put out his post about banks, get your act together?
Yeah.
He's had a Brian Armstrong conversation before he put that out. You can't stop this, stop trying to. And I don't know whether there may be something underneath the surface going on where it's getting pretty close.
Gold is up.
Moving things on.
Gold's up.
Say again, sorry?
Gold is up over the last, 3 months, over the last month, over the last week. Although in the last couple of days, it did like kind of peak at 4K and then dip.
Okay. So I'm just interested in those nuances between gold and Bitcoin, but particularly, you're right. The evidence shows, Jayden, that in these situations, Bitcoin seems to suddenly become a flight to safety.
I think people view it as, you got to think the narrative that's been put around Bitcoin, and I agree with this narrative. Like, I think this is, people view Bitcoin as digital gold, and it makes sense why you would pivot into Bitcoin during times of uncertainty, because, we've even seen it on small scales in, less developed countries where their economy goes to pot, right? And they have mass hyperinflation, or maybe they've lost trust with their government, and they put money into Bitcoin. That's what you see happens in those situations now. What they think is the safe and best place for their money is Bitcoin. Just like in a war, I think Bitcoin is almost like the new age gold. So people are hedging that, like, if there is real disruption, either put it into gold or put it into Bitcoin. I know Bitcoin is so volatile that we kind of like stray away from that, but I do think
it's just noticeable. You're absolutely right. It's just noticeable that particularly in the last few days with the war, Bitcoin has accelerated. And you mentioned that gold has sort of maintained. So I'm just curious as to,
Yeah.
I guess you could argue, well, everyone bungs their money into gold as well when there's times of uncertainty. And yet, it's interesting.
Gold is already up. So maybe what we saw.
Nowhere to go.
Yeah. Maybe,
can't go any higher.
Yeah.
Maybe what we saw is gold, maybe someone, traditional investors had more knowledge that something like this could happen. And maybe that's why we saw gold surge. I don't know. But I think Jayden's right as well, which is what we should get onto is Jane Street. I think that's another thing that I've seen on the timeline as what's behind this.
Yeah, I've got a slide to share. I just want to say a massive thank you to Mikey DLS for sharing the stream. Amit, Tay, and Jean, the 4 of you that reposted, really appreciate it. I came across this really interesting article, which when you kind of dig into things, there's a few people saying that it's a bit of a conspiracy theory. A few other people saying that the actual price manipulation is just a structure of how the ETF market works. I don't know if either of you came across this article about Jane Street. They're basically a market maker. And what they do, well, they're a market maker and a trader, and they trade around different assets. I think they're one of the biggest holders of silver. So they're a huge company or trading firm. And what they're actually doing, what looks to be that they are manipulating the price of Bitcoin. And actually, when they got sued, the Bitcoin started to go straight up, and then obviously the Iran war came about, and then it went back down again, and then it kind of recovered. But what they're doing is actually I say it's interesting. They're buying Bitcoin, or were buying Bitcoin spot positions, but then they were short selling the Bitcoin, but the option on the short sale was a lot larger than the spot position, which basically means that the spot position was the actual trade. The short call was the actual trade. So they were just looking to short it each time to arbitrage the kind of downfall. And obviously you've got these liquidated traders. So when the price of Bitcoin falls, it kind of cascades down, and they're trying to arbitrage the short position. But I'll show you what they're actually doing. Let me just share the screen, guys. Can you see my screen? I know you probably got to zoom in a little bit. Just
this is the one I was trying to find.
Yeah, just bear me 2 seconds. Let me see if I can just zoom in on this quickly.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Right, bear with. So I don't know if you can see that. If you start from the left, you've got 10 a.m. They dump Bitcoin, and obviously you can see in the kind of run up, they're buying spot positions and then they're dumping it. But the short they're getting out is multiples larger than the spot position that they're buying, and they're dumping it at 10 a.m. each time. So I don't know if you can see that. Then what happens is there's a 10 a.m. dump of obviously Bitcoin drops. Jane Street gets sued. This is for like trading activity, not related to Bitcoin. And then the next 10 a.m. there's no dump. There's no dump, but then the price of Bitcoin goes up. So it looks like they've been manipulating the price of, or arbitraging the price of Bitcoin. I don't think they're actually doing anything wrong, because it's not. For whatever reason, I don't think it comes under SEC rules. But if they're doing that with TradFi or traditional stocks, then there's an issue. I don't know if you guys have any opinions on what's happening there, or if you think it's maybe just a conspiracy theory, or people just kind of looking for a reason for the price of, or the reason why Bitcoin hasn't actually got out the gates or anything.
I was just going to say one thing, but so I'm sure Burge has got quite a bit to say on that particular subject, is that I always think follow the evidence. So if it is factual and true, that is happening consistently over a longer period of time, whether anyone would deem it to be legal or not. And interestingly, would it be under the Clarity Act if that was passed? That'd be another thing, be interesting to see. If the facts are the facts, they can't be disputed. I suppose. But I know things often are much more nuanced than that. But that's a good starting point, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think
what they've been doing consistently. Then
they've been banned from the Indian stock market for this type of trading manipulation. So obviously, just buying a spot position on a stock, which is small, but then the short position is multiples larger, and then they sell the stock into their short position, and then they arbitrage the difference, and that's how they're kind of making some of their money here.
Quick question though, Jayden, and to Burge, let's say it's irrefutable. This is happening again,
Yeah.
and it's logged. That's one thing. Is it disputable that it's had much of an impact or not? Is that the disputed bit? That it's not so much it's happened, it's more, did it really have the impact that people are saying? Is that the question really?
Yeah. I think the thing to ask is whether this type of trading activity is having an impact on the actual price or stopping price increasing. So, and that just kind of remains to be seen. I don't know, Burge, you got an opinion on that?
And with the war, I mean, it becomes harder to see. Like, if there wasn't, if the war hadn't started at all, and we saw this, then I could buy into it a bit more with a bit more confidence. But with the war, I don't know if that Bitcoin surge is actually because of the war, which in my opinion makes sense. Like with how I view Bitcoin, as I said before, in times of uncertainty, I feel like people should flock to Bitcoin, which is why the price has rallied. Is that the reason why the price has rallied, or is it because Jane Street isn't doing the 10 a.m. dumping and the selling? I don't know. Or is it both? And it could be both. But yeah, I think Simon's right. I mean, as you said, the Indian regulators found Jane Street to have earned 4.23 billion from market manipulation. They've been banned there. And then there's another lawsuit. This is really interesting. This obviously could be wild speculation. You know how X is. People tend to like jump on and pile on. But there's another lawsuit claiming Jane Street was responsible for the Terra Luna crash, which cost people $40 billion. And they're being accused of insider trading there, and then they're being accused, as we said, of doing the same here with Bitcoin, trying to,
because they managed to sell off large portions of their holdings while prior to the Luna crash, so they had some insider information off the back of that. So that's the actual reason why they're being sued. That's the reason why they're being sued, and obviously, I guess it's like anything. You get sued for one thing, and then all of this other stuff comes to the surface. All of the bodies come to the surface, and you're like, shit. If that's your strategy with one thing, why wouldn't that strategy amplify across a whole bunch of other things, especially if it works?
Yeah.
So
what I would like to know is, let's say during that period that was happening with Jane Street, and that they were selling, buying at that time of day every time. Is there a way to go back over time and be able to make a pretty reasonable assessment that it was having impact over that period of time, even to some degree? Is there a measurable way of finding that out, or do you think that's always going to just be something you can't do?
Yeah, this gets into high-level technical stuff because they're also a market maker, so they provide the liquidity for the market as well. So I think it's actually just a function of how the ETFs work as well. So I don't think they're actually doing anything wrong. As
and
mad as it sounds,
never know.
Yeah,
no.
But they're obviously they're arbitraging their position in the market as both a market maker and a trader. So it takes you down some rabbit holes anyway. But I think we're kind of we've got that in the review mirror. I'm kind of hoping that this Iran situation is in the review mirror very soon. I want to move on from the subject of politics, but obviously Trump's got the midterms in November. He's down on the polls. Obviously, if the significance of the midterms is if he loses that, he then becomes a lame duck president for the final 2 years of his presidency, which means he can't implement a lot of these things. Obviously, he still has powers, but he's not going to get things pushed through the Senate, and it's going to slow down a lot of the things that he wants to implement. He's obviously changed the Fed chair. Jerome Powell did not want to reduce rates. Kevin Walsh has now come in. He's notoriously hawkish on inflation, which suggests that he's going to keep rates higher. However, I think the market's actually got it wrong, because a lot of the rhetoric that Kevin Walsh has had on the timeline is he's saying Jerome Powell's a dick and all this sort of stuff. And Donald Trump's right. And yeah, interest rates can come down and blah, blah, blah. But actually, when you dig under the hood, Kevin Walsh leans Republican. So he's going to probably get out of Donald Trump's way, lower rates. And Trump is acutely aware, along with Scott Bessent, that actually rolling the debt raises asset prices. And if you look at the data of all the people in middle America who voted for him, I think something like 52% of them hold crypto. So it's like wow. Right. So all of his voter base, get this, all of his voter base are currently down on crypto. And a very small percentage of them will be up on a nominal basis on crypto, given where it is. That means he has to appease his voter base. If he doesn't appease his voter base, they are not going to vote for him. And actually, the lead, I know we got all of these. I know look, 3 Brits across the pond. We don't need to be talking about politics, but we're just going to squeeze this last bit of that. The lead signal in people voting is the economy. How rich do they feel? How rich are you making people feel? That is the lead voting metric. The social issues, like the they them thing or the whatever, all the other things are very much secondary to the economy. And he has led on a whole bunch of things. I mean, even the Epstein files are going to be a secondary to the economy, because people feel richer and they feel like you are making them wealthier, and they're getting pay rises and their assets are going up optically. They're more inclined to want more of the same. And I think what he's doing is very clever, is he's actually leading. He's trying to get all this stuff out the way, the tariffs, the wars, get it out the way, and then roll the debt. And then we go to Valhalla. Now, call it hopium, but that's what I think is going to happen. And I think, I think people in the middle of this year are going to be like, holy fuck, this is going to be the biggest asset increase shock that anyone's ever going to see in fucking human history, because he will do everything to make sure the price goes up. Don't forget, his company, World Liberty Finance, are fucking buying Bitcoin. So he's got a vested interest. And also, sorry, guys, I'm going to let you dive in here at some point while I'm on my soapbox.
No, I've actually gone off and had a little nap. But a 3-course meal. But you don't. This is just an avatar.
Do you know what? I thought it was a cardboard cutout for a second. But the other thing, and Kathy Wood was saying this as well. Kathy Wood from ARK Invest, she was saying this as well, is that they've not openly spoke about buying Bitcoin. They've just said they're not going to sell the Bitcoin they seize. That is a bunch of bullshit. Now, I reckon he's just going to buy. He's going to buy up Bitcoin. Why wouldn't he? His World Liberty Finance and his entire family are front running Bitcoin. So why would? Yeah. So he's got a self-interest thing, but also he knows that if the US buy Bitcoin and he allows a whole bunch of states to front run buying it, he's going to make them wealthier. And the fucking stable coin thing that they've introduced, where they can peg the stable coin to American debt.
Yeah.
So they can peg it to treasuries. So now these companies are going to be buying up US debt to bring the debt bill down, which the Russians are fucking kicking off about. Anyway, guys, any thoughts on that?
When you say
none at all. None at all.
When you say the states buying Bitcoin, do you mean buying it from the US government? Like when you say states front, like how would states front run buying Bitcoin?
So each of them are going to have an allocation that they can buy. So each state is going to be allowed to buy Bitcoin.
And that's from the market, or is that from the US? What they've seized from other people?
No. They can buy it on the open market. They can use a portion of whatever their budget is to buy it. I think for certain states, like 5% that they can. But what it's going to allow them to do is each state is going to have like an economic share in Bitcoin, and obviously if that increases. But then the other thing they're doing with the stablecoin stuff is they can peg the stablecoin to U.S. treasuries, so they're going to buy up U.S. debt and they're going to peg it to U.S. debt. So it's going to be interesting. Look, I think a lot of this stuff happens across the pond. I think us kind of diving into this is great. But did you guys have any thoughts on anything I've just said in the last 5 minutes? I should have just.
No, wait. You want to know
last half hour?
Well, one thing completely unrelated. Whilst just before we went on this tangent, I actually searched on X. I put in Bitcoin manipulation Jane Street. I was trying to find that same graph that Jayden showed, right? And it's really funny. We'd just started speaking on that subject. Our live popped up on the search. So I put in Bitcoin manipulation Jane Street, and you'd literally just said those words.
That's scary.
It popped up, and then it said to me, "Is this post relevant?" And I said, "Fuck yes, it is. I want this to be shown to everyone."
So obviously it's listening
live. It's
listening to what we say. Bitcoin, crypto, NFTs,
NFTs, crypto.
I was going to say
price go up, number go up.
World War III.
The World War III. God, don't say that. NFTs. No, that won't get anywhere probably. But the other thing is that, of course, he's only just posted yesterday about banks, get out the way, get your act together, stop dragging your feet. And he had a chat with Brian Armstrong before he made that announcement. So that all ties into his urgency around driving this through. Clearly, there seems to be an urgency now. And I wonder if that also is having an impact on the price. The fact that he's saying that, putting it to the top of the agenda, are there things going on behind the scenes which might be getting ready to move things to the next level? Because it wasn't supposed to be happening. Now, again, they were going to be having this conversation. Maybe the war has slightly got that. But I just think that could also be giving some momentum somewhere. He's basically said, you get out the way because this is coming. I know you're scared. I know that it's going to be challenging for you. I know it's been cozy and lovely for you to make all that money, but there's a new boy girl in town now, and they're going to take over. And you either go with it or you don't.
I've got a video on that, Simon, actually, from the Cardano founder.
Nice little segue.
Yeah,
this is a really interesting take. So this is the Cardano founder. He's basically coming out against the Clarity Act.
I guess we just have to pass a horrific trash bill that makes everything a security by default, and it creates attack vectors through bureaucratic nonsense for the SEC to destroy all future American cryptocurrency projects. And also, there's nothing in this for DeFi. Nothing. Uniswap doesn't get anything. Prediction markets don't get anything. Armstrong can't even get his yield-bearing stablecoins. This is not a good bill. Through rulemaking, it can become horrific and weaponized, and it doesn't cover the core of what's going on in the industry right now. Then they say we can always amend the bill later. Then why is there such a rush to pass it? I guess we just have to pass a horrific...
That's the Cardano founder there, basically saying that this bill to make all crypto security by default. And he's taken the complete opposite side of the fence, and he's basically saying, why is there such a rush to pass this bill, which is incomplete? And yes, Trump might be saying, oh, it could be amended later, but imagine if the administration changes in 2 years' time, and then this bill allows them to actually go after crypto. It's almost like going to achieve the opposite of what we would hope it to achieve.
But I mean, the banks have been shafting us for years, mate. I mean, I don't want to be one of these guys who creates this tribalism, but it's like we had this conversation the other day, which was, I mean, I got a letter through from my bank to say that they were reducing my savings rate. It went from like 0.5% to 0.25. I'm like, that's less it costs more to send the fucking letter out. Like, what? It's fucking pointless. And then you compare it to the stuff that we're using on Coinbase. You know, you can stake. I think it's at one point I could stake my Solana for like 7%, which was pretty cool. You know, you can do the same with Ethereum. I think at like 3.5%, maybe 4%. So now it becomes a bit more interesting, and it makes you want to have exposure to the assets, but also it obviously helps secure those networks with the staking, but makes you hold on to the asset for longer and endure the volatility. And it's just if something works better and is better for you, the banks just need to do more, because they've been making shit tons of profit. They've been making a shit ton of profit on obviously the loan products, because interest rates have been high, but the savings rates that you're getting aren't very good.
Well, you know, also Charles Hoskinson, it's an interesting view to take, actually. And, you know, he's a very, very bright guy. I'm interested to see what Brian Armstrong would say to him in response, to say, look, I'm the one actually at the coalface here having the conversations with the president, with the banks, with my teams. And it will just be interesting to see what his view is in contrast or not to Charles Hoskinson. Basically, I get the sense that Brian Armstrong has not come this far to just suddenly give way and say, let's just get a really rubbish.
Let's just get something.
Or just clean us. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. So I would actually be interested in that kind of conversation, the nuanced difference between the two.
That's why rushing it might not be the best idea.
Right? But Simon, I just want to move on slightly. There was some news on the timeline around Magic Eden sunsetting. Obviously, Magic Eden was predominantly a Solana marketplace. Then I know they did a bit of stuff with ordinals, and then obviously spread out into different blockchains, which I thought was good. It's probably indicative of where NFT pricing has been. You and I have not, I say, had a bit of friction. There's never friction between us. However, you have a thesis around being on multiple chains and having those, or just exploring different things, because you get your kind of mental stimulation from that, which I think is fantastic. I kind of look at the risks associated to being on these multiple chains. Magic Eden was the predominant Solana chain, or marketplace for Solana. That obviously looks like it's going to be no longer. Do you have any thoughts on?
Yeah, I was sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I think I may be wrong here. That is Magic Eden going to stick with Solana as it was its first.
Right.
I don't know whether it's retracing back to them, but I think it might be. And you're right, because I have got some ordinals. Excuse me. And for a long time, it's where I always went and have always gone to purchase or sell. So it's interesting that's happened, and I know it sparked a lot of conversations in the ordinal space about what's going to happen. And then quickly people came around to saying, it's funny how you turn, don't you? At one point, Magic Eden was the wonderful place for ordinals, and everyone was bigging them up and saying it's the best thing ever, and they're so understanding and they're so fantastic at promoting us. And the moment they say we're not going to do it anymore, everyone goes, "Wow, you were rubbish." And then but what's interesting is that quite quickly people have said, actually, okay, that's fine. There are other places where people have been for a long time now, been trading. It's just they've been a little bit more niche for most people. And there are plenty of marketplaces. And weirdly, just one last thing, it seems to be creating that kind of tribal feeling of, right, we're going back to, we're right at the cutting edge, and we're now not even going to be on the big, well, maybe going to OpenSea, by the way.
Yes.
You never know. That may be happening, but it's almost like that. You hunker down a little bit with that mentality. You go, well, we've got our places we can do that, and we understand it, and you get quite protective. So I know it's had a bit of effect. I know that things have had an impact. I don't think long term having Magic Eden out the equation is really going to. If ordinals,
it's not going to. If people want access to things, they'll get access to things.
It's because they Bitcoin and the most sort of reliable to store your assets, blah 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 blah, and that just won't go away.
People were saying that OpenSea should pick up the baton. Like, this is a real opportunity.
Do you think they might? Do you think they might?
I mean, OpenSea, I don't know if they will, but what I would say is I think it just would be a smart move, considering how they're innovating, how they're growing their team, they're hiring well. You know, I just think it's one of those things where OpenSea here can take over the baton from Magic Eden, and then have that community as part of its ecosystem and start to grow what a lot of these different companies and platforms are trying to do, which is trying to grow a platform where it has everything. And if OpenSea is really, you know, because we've seen it in the last 1 or 2 years, right? OpenSea has pivoted a lot more to crypto. You know, it used to be just NFTs, but now you can trade tokens. Now you can trade tokens. It's trying to market itself as being the place to trade anything on the blockchain.
Anything and everything.
And if it wants to do that, then ordinals make sense.
I think your sound, just for the last 5-10 minutes, I don't know, has sometimes sounded like it's cutting a bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When you lean forward a bit, or when your mic's in a certain place, it seems to be fine. Just that, you know.
Yeah, nice one. Birds, just while you're sorting that out, I've got a question to ask you. I was in a WhatsApp chat. Obviously, the beauty of being in NFTs is that you get all these communities that you're a part of. The downside is that you're in these fucking WhatsApp chats, and I've actually got to remove myself from some of them. I got out of the apes one. Not anything to do with the apes or anything personal. It's just I can't do. You know, I get added to these groups on X as well, and I'm just like, you know,
X is the most annoying.
Yeah, because it doesn't let you hide the notifications, or you can't just put it on mute because it just keeps showing up, and you think, oh, I got a message, and then so I just have to remove myself from all of those groups. But one of the groups that I'm still in, outside of obviously the Carrot Lane founding group, which is the apex of where anything in NFTs happens, is
about to.
Yeah, I can see the sunshine coming on your head there. Are you in an office? You sure you're in an office there, Simon?
Great carrot.
Yeah, it's got a carrot coming out of it. But I was in the VFriends group. I don't read every single message. I kind of scan read stuff. I know that it's a UK-based group. I know that there's been a bit of angst around VFriends and the UK, feeling like they're a bit ostracized from what's happening in the rest of the VFriends ecosystem. Even though it's a US-based company, I know they're trying to do international stuff, but it feels like from reading the messages that people feel in the UK, they're a little bit disenfranchised. Have you got any thoughts on what's happening? Because I know a lot of, because obviously you run that group. So people ordinarily now think that you are, you answer for VFriends.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I got this package through and it was like 2 days late and there's damage. What are you going to do about it?
This was the thing. It was new collectors coming in, which was really interesting. And, you know, it wasn't absolutely everyone, but it definitely seemed to galvanize kind of a reaction from everyone. Even though there was 1 or 2 people who were maybe a lot more vocal. But yeah, it was this frustration with VFriends not being more involved in the UK market, not marketing more, not putting more resources in the UK market, but launching a product and, you know, hoping and expecting that UK buyers would be would purchase it. So it was kind of this frustration from these new collectors of like, well, we've been onboarded, we like the product, we like the brand, but there needs to be more happening here in the UK. And that's, you know, I can definitely relate to that. I mean, I've been, you know, following the project since before it began, and I've seen it all. And in the UK, we've always felt, you know, we've had to come to accept that we are, you know, number 2 or number 3 after the US, and that US is, you know, as a startup and a small company with under 50 employees. Yes, sure, Gary is the one who's running it, and yes, they have some money behind them, but still, they have limited resources, and their main priority right now is growing it in the US, in North America, but in the US mainly.
Yeah. Why
That's what
specifically North America? Is that where all the collectibles is happening at the moment?
Well, I say North America just to include Canada as well, because
Right,
I
okay.
think Canada is like, it's almost sometimes you can kind of group the two together. It's
Yeah.
not that they don't have to go that far afield to include Canada as well as the US. But I mean, it's US, and obviously US is massive, and VFriends is still growing. It's still not really on the map to the general public. Let's say, I think to card collectors, they've done a good job. They've put it on the map to a lot of people in the in the hobby, in the card world. But I think so when they're thinking about UK, when I'm having these conversations with them, when I'm trying to pitch a proposal to them about the UK, it's hard for them to really get behind it, because they see almost it's barely got any significant number of people that are fans of VFriends in the UK, and so their priority is growing it in the US still, because it's still not major there. So just like a normal traditional, like if this was a normal traditional brand and it wasn't VFriends, and they didn't say, oh, this will be a global brand, and it wasn't ran by Gary V, I would have I wouldn't have I wouldn't expect them at all to be trying to go into the UK market or trying to expand into other UK markets. It's because it's ran by Gary, who has a global audience, and also he said this was a global and international brand. And because we have a community, including people from all around the world, it's because of that fact that I would like to see them make more of an effort in different countries. And I think UK is just the obvious place to go after US, because there's a lot of parallels you can draw. The hobby is growing significantly and has been in the last few years. So I just feel like, I would love for them to really meet me where I'm at and try and, really try and grow the brand here in the UK. I think it's possible. I don't think it would take tons and tons. I've got a proposal that I've laid out to them, and I'm hoping that they'll take me up on it, and maybe we can really try and get the ball rolling.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Simon, have you got any thoughts on the collectible side of things? Obviously, it's very hard. You've gravitated towards Del Mondo's, which is a UK-based brand. Obviously, Chimpers is another UK one.
Yeah.
It feels like we've got a bit more access to some of the local stuff happening. But these guys,
it does. I was just going to say a couple of things with this. What you're saying, Berge, I can completely understand that kind of tension there, that challenge. I was going to say something just related to what you said at the beginning, Jayden, was how do you leave these little X groups and WhatsApp groups with grace?
Simon's in 100 of them.
I've got a dating connotation for you. On Hinge, there's a prompt on there which asks you how you leave a party, and it's either you say goodbye to people or you go through the back door. And I've always learned that you always go through the back door, mate. So if you're going to leave silently. The thing with WhatsApp is it shows that you've left. I think there is a feature on there that's stopping that now. But it's like, when you tell all your buddies at the bar, listen, guys, I'm going. And they're like, no, do one more shot. Do one more. No, come on. No, stay.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
The same thing happens in groups. I'm just saying. And also, if you say, oh, I'm leaving, and then you come up with an excuse, it just looks bad. Just leave.
Yeah.
Just leave.
Yeah,
Don't say anything.
I agree with that.
I kind of want to say, because my natural inclination is to say, look, I'm so very, very sorry to be leaving. It's been a very difficult decision.
Yeah.
I love you all. It's got nothing to do with anything I've said or done.
It's with a heavy heart.
It's me. It's me. It's me, not you. It's me, not you.
There's a big,
and that's why I'm ending the relationship. And it's got nothing to do with you. I just realized that we're not really aligned anymore.
Simon, do you send that when you have a date with someone after a first date and you're not into them? Do you send them that?
I do say I try to be very honest and polite, but actually get there quick, because I don't think it's fair to go silent or to be kind of strange. So I will actually say, look, it's been lovely to meet you. You probably thought the same as me, so I'm sure it's not just one way.
Oh, the old gaslighting, very good.
I didn't feel, because of course I'm deeply unattractive, so why would you? But I just don't feel that it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't right for me, but I thought you were lovely, blah blah. That's
I like the old. I like the sales tactic of you putting it on them. You weren't really into me, and I kind of felt.
I mean, I can imagine you would found me absolutely revolting. So I didn't send this. But yeah, but I was thinking that's an interesting one. But that's interesting about that UK, US, and how far any team spreads their reach and how much they can afford to, and where their mindset is, etc. I just wanted to say one thing, because we're talking about the UK, just because we forgot last week to say with any kind of depth how fantastic it was that Jacob from Chimpers came along to the event that you put on last week, because I was circling like a bird near him, and I couldn't get near because he was very politely and rightly talking to lots of people, and I kind of grabbed him at the end and said, I've got to go, but I really wish we had a chat. And he was just very attentive, lovely person. He made that effort to come along, and he actually, but what's even nicer, we talk about how you kind of buy founders, not just the collections, you buy into the human beings behind them. He sent me a message the day after and said, really mindful of the fact we didn't chat, and I'm really, really annoyed I'm really annoyed or frustrated we didn't get a chance to chat. Definitely next time, let's do that. Didn't need to do that. Didn't need to get in touch and say that to me. And I thought, what a lovely touch. And I just think, going back to, and I even did a post the other day saying it's not just the NFTs you're investing in, it is the people behind them.
Thank you, Simon, for bringing that up.
Thing for me.
Because I wanted also to, shout out Jacob as well, and I completely forgot to when I was thinking of doing, this live. But Jacob was he was, out of everyone that I spoke to, he was the person who really helped promote, put out countless posts, which he doesn't have to do. Obviously a founder of a project, I'm not asking for that. I'm not expecting that to happen, because obviously he's got to do his own stuff with Chimpers, but he was, constantly making posts about the event. He knew it was the first event, and, usually what you tend to find is people don't fully back something until they've seen it a couple of events first, or attempts or whatever. But Jacob was really someone who backed it from the very beginning, and helped retweet, helped post about it, promote it, etc. And really thankful for that. I mean, I know we got a few Chimpers in the house. I think we'll get more in Birmingham, and then much more again in Manchester, which is where the real hub for Chimpers is. But yeah, super thankful for Jacob attending and promoting.
I've been to NFT events. I went to one in Birmingham. I've been to a couple in London, but I think yours was definitely the best in terms of the caliber of person that was there. It's a major value add, especially for people who are getting into NFTs. It makes, and Simon, you can relate to this, is the fact that when you actually get to meet the founder, it makes the world a difference, because actually you can see the person behind it. I mean, I said this about a couple of the people that I met who'd subscribed to Carrot Lane. Interestingly, I did and I guess our listening viewers won't be able to see this, but I did a thing I took a screenshot of my subscribers. It was up above 9,000 at one point, and my subscriber chart on Carrot Lane looks a bit like a Bitcoin chart. I don't know if you can see this on your screen, but
yes,
it's basically it's basically an index into what's happening in Iran at the moment.
You're going to buy the dip.
Am I going to buy the dip on the subscribers? So guys, if you want to support Carrot Lane and you want to subscribe, I'd really appreciate it, because we kind of need the chart to go back up. But what inevitably happens is the attention flows come back on the space, which is why I think the in-person meetups is a good thing, because there was actually someone who had unsubscribed. I bumped into them. we'd had a conversation. They went, "Oh, do you know what? Actually, you're quite a good guy. I'll resubscribe again," which obviously I really appreciate. But the in-person meetups is a big thing, and I think Burge, the more that you can grow that, I mean, what we had 35 people. If you can get that up to 50, 100, and then like you say, you get the interviews with the founders of the fireside chats and those sorts of things going. I think the meetups is going to be a big thing. I was hearing a thing on the timeline about actually analog. There's a rise of in-person meetups. There's a rise of these private clubs where they ask to take your phone off of you and put it in a locker. So now you've got to talk.
Funny.
There's a rise of all of this. So people are now wanting to detach. The irony is that the in-person meetups is the thing that's going to be driven by the fact that people want to get away from the technology, whereas actually it's this kind of pendulum swing, which obviously
I agree. And I just say on that note, it makes a difference when a founder can, but does actually come along.
Yeah,
I think that's it makes a big difference. I know that when I went to the World of Women one, and you went to one, Jayden, as well. I think you were there, Burge, and I went to one before that that V attended, and I actually got to chat to V, and it does make a real difference. I was going to say, I won't say too much about Dumb Windows because it's going to become like you talking about V-Friends, and I'll just go on and on about it. Although I want to, no, I
do whatever you want, mate.
No, I was thinking that again, just to go back to Benny and his presence there and just the way he was just lovely. I was thinking when I got here today, because obviously, as I said earlier, I'm in a bank. Head offices in London, the biggest bank in Oslo's head office, and I'm hiring a room, doing an NFT live stream, and they probably think I'm doing some Teams call with a client. I was thinking, how can I get my Dumb Windows T-shirt on inside a bank? Now that shows you that I must be slightly obsessed. If I'm thinking, not only can I hire a room in this headquarters of this bank, but how can I get my Dumb Windows T-shirt on? Do you think I should try? I don't know. Maybe I'll go out.
The thing is, you're going to take off your smart shirt and it's going to show your Dumb Windows tattoo, so we can't have that.
I should have worn it underneath. That's what. Yes, exactly.
You could have done the Superman.
Yes.
But just quickly, on that, like events becoming more and more popular. I just noticed I've seen like these tweets separately over the last 6 months, 12 months, 2 years maybe. Meetup, which was a fairly popular platform, a little bit niche, but a fairly popular platform, was acquired by this company called Bending Spoons that has also purchased Eventbrite. So Eventbrite is the platform that I use and probably will be using to run at least the next few on-chain society events. And Eventbrite was purchased in December, the December just gone, by Bending Spoons. So clearly this company is seeing, potentially seeing what we were talking about, this desire for more IRL events, or at least is predicting that IRL events are going to be more and more in demand. And they're making some acquisitions in that space. And I know Eventbrite and Meetup, Meetup's definitely a bit more niche, but both of those platforms, they're still not ridiculously popular, but they're where people go right now. And so if they can improve those apps and platforms and websites and make them a bit more user friendly, I think they could have a real winner there.
And with NFT Paris being cancelled, that was a real pivotal moment, wasn't it? Because people's desire to be connected in real life versus the cost of actually doing that. Because when I was signing up, they were giving the tickets again for free. And I guess you were getting that too. And I was thinking, gosh, free, God, they must be doing really well. And but then the other thing was, makes me think that maybe at the moment, the more small, more intimate gatherings, which are not trying to put on massive events at the moment, might be appealing to people. More localized, smaller, more intimate, just might be a richer experience. Although I love the big events as well, of course.
I mean, I think with NFT NYC, NFT Paris, NFT London, there was always this kind of thing of like ridiculously priced tickets, and then a lot of people would get them for free. But clearly they weren't able to run because they weren't getting enough sponsorship to allow, because they always had sponsors that would allow them to be able to do that, where they didn't really matter if they sold, a certain amount of tickets at $500 a pop or whatever, because they were getting enough sponsorships. And clearly that completely fell through, and NFT Paris wasn't even viable because they didn't have the sponsors to do it. But yeah, I think there's an opportunity. I mean, as I said, like UK events, we've had the short end of the stick. NFT London basically only ran once. NFT Paris, as you said, has closed completely now. And even like the NFT UK events. Yeah.
I was due to speak at NFT Paris.
We were considering potentially going as a group as well.
Yeah.
Okay, we were just going to jump on Jayden's spot and be like, Parrot Lane!
We're here.
Until I realized...
What was the subject, Jayden? Was it dating?
No. Until I realized that they didn't want anyone willy-nilly to speak. I was like, fucking hell.
Yes.
Do you know about Bitcoin? What's that?
Bitcoin.
No, it was obviously a meme go around. But I think they kind of I know they had high caliber speakers, but then the fireside stuff with because you could go from booth to booth and you can listen to people speak, and obviously I put down that I'm a writer and all these sorts of things. Guys, I want to just segue from the meetup stuff to some of what's happening in the TokenWorks ecosystem. Obviously, we're looking at pricing. I can see now that it's highly correlated with what's happening with the Ethereum ecosystem. Price seems to have stabilized a little bit with Punk's strategy. Adam has now released the fact that he's dropped the multiplier. Instead of a 1.2 times relisting multiplier, it's 1.1, which we kind of suspected in the early days that you could change it, although he didn't really say on the timeline that that could happen. But now it makes sense, because all of a sudden, if CryptoPunks get up to a 100 ETH floor, a relisting price of 110 isn't as bad as 120. So there's not going to be that, doesn't feel like there'll be that stagnation. But also, if he can drop it to 110, he can also, by the sounds of it, one, it's not a completely decentralized contract if he can make adjustments to it. So there's that. Another thing is he can drop it, which I think is interesting. He can drop it to a 1.05 multiplier, and maybe lower and lower. I don't know. But that's obviously in the midst of what's happening with this Deathster token. Have either of you got any thoughts on what's happening there? Do you think it's a good move to drop the multiplier down when the floor price of CryptoPunks is down? Have you got any thoughts on that, either of you?
It definitely feels like it's in response to Deathster. And actually, kind of breaking news, I can jump to this as well, but actually, yeah, let's jump to it now. Some kind of like, this is hot off the press. Def Strategy has announced that it's actually changing from 20% cheaper, so minus 20%, to minus 30%. So a 30% discount is what it's going to. So you've almost got now this kind of race, this battle between the two. Here is the tweet from TokenWorks. Obviously, as you said, changing it from 1.2x what it's relisted as to 1.1x. And then this is Adam's kind of quote tweeting of it, and he's basically saying here whether he's debating, letting the Series 1 and Series 2 NFT holders vote on future changes. But yeah, interesting, as you said, not decentralized, as he's always put out a lot of rhetoric of this is decentralized, this will run, I don't have to do anything here. But you're seeing here a change from him, and he's put the DAO has decided to lower the listing, but then he's put DAO as decisions Adams overseas instead of decentralized.
You know what? I do respect his shithousery sometimes.
Yeah.
But he put up a post the other day that just left such a bad taste in my mouth because he's minting this new season 2.
Yes.
And in the post, he said something like, a whole bunch of you people who wanted to invest in Token Works, if you don't mint this, don't bother contacting me next time. And I'm sat there thinking, like, that is getting people to put money into something is very difficult. It's a difficult thing to do. I mean, like, I see it with Carol, it's very difficult to get someone to, invest in something. And I just think that's such a childlike comment. I know it's a crypto bro culture and blah, blah, blah. And, the whole community is saying he's based and all this bollocks. But people want to invest in something and they want to feel firstly valued for investing in something. Yes, they want their thing to go up in price, but it's just like, I think he's got to come of age here a little bit as a businessman for this to work.
I mean that 299 mints though, that's 299 Ethereum that was spent. These were each sold as 1 Ethereum each, and then if you ever wanted to back out, you could get 0.8 Ethereum. So 0.8 Ethereum was set aside from that 1 Ethereum, and then 0.1 was used as an immediate kind of like treasury for the team and him. And then 0.1 was, I think, went to Punk Strategy or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, really interesting, as you say. Like those are strong comments.
30 ETH. There's 30 ETH going back to burning Punk Strategy if there's 300 mints.
Yes, yeah. I think so. If I'm correct in that, I'll try and have a look and just confirm that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the case.
So, Simon, you got any thoughts on that?
I was just thinking about what you said about how he's showing up and how he's communicating and whether it's intentional or it's a blind spot. There's something about, okay, fair enough. If your intention is to be quite hard-nosed about things and quite challenging and a little bit controversial, then fine, go for it. But if you're just not reading the room, maybe you need to just take a moment to get a little bit of input from other people. I can't work out with him. He doesn't really care. But as you rightly say, at some point, maybe you do need to care. Maybe I know it's all very cool and a bit rebellious and a bit this and a bit that, but actually these are real people putting their money behind something. So maybe you need to account for that. You need to be open to.
Yeah. I've just had a message from Alexander Mayer, who's in our private group. He says, I think the minimum multiplier allowed in the contract for Punk Strategy is 1.1. Punk Strategy has been bought for the team. It's not burnt yet. They might as well dump it. I don't know what that refers to.
Actually, on that, just quickly, I wanted to. I missed these comments previously on Substack. I just wanted to shout them out. Alexander again saying, going back to the Jane Street case, he said it would explain a lot why the Bitcoin price action felt so manipulated, which is something Simon has routinely mentioned and we've routinely spoke about on the show. And then Zillow1 saying, Jane Street has manipulated markets for a while. India and some other countries have banned them. This short selling has been going on for a while. They're now under investigation in the US. And then just to confirm as well, I'm on the Series 02 website, the TokenWorks website, where you could have minted that Series 2 NFT. The campaign's ended now, and it says, the mechanics are 80% was set aside, it was vested, and then you had 10% that was paid immediately to the team in Ethereum, and then it said 10% paid in Punk Strategy. So it says here, Punk Strategy Reserve. Punk Strategy was our most successful project of season 1 and has taken a life of its own. Given how strong the community around Punk Strategy still is, we want to purchase a meaningful portion of the supply as a team to ensure long-term alignment. As a result, we'll be taking half of the initially unlocked funds from the campaign and build a Punk Strategy reserve for the TokenWorks team. So as you said, Jayden, that's 30 Ethereum that is becoming that is being used to buy Punk Strategy and make a Punk Strategy reserve for the TokenWorks team.
Right. Yeah. I think, it's an interesting one. I think there's a lot of people that message me saying, do you think Punk Strategy is going to go up? I'm still firmly of the belief that if it's indexed very much against CryptoPunks, and this is a bet on price performance of CryptoPunks. And you've now got 40 CryptoPunks in this protocol, and it's my belief that they're just going to go up. I think it's very bullish, the 1.1 times multiplier. I think the fact that they can change that is smart. I don't necessarily buy into the whole decentralized and mutable contract thing. I think at some point it's got to get there, but they need more information first, because this is a first rodeo. People expect, you're not really going to know what the attack vectors are here, or where the weak points are, until you actually just go ahead and do it. And I think this has got legs. I think this punk strategy ecosystem has got legs.
Agreed.
I don't have too much of an opinion on death, so I need to kind of lean into that one a bit more. But there's always going to be something out there that kind of eats its lunch a little bit. And this is why in the early days, and I'm still of the view that there is a bridge. There's a bridge that TokenWorks can make here between what they are doing and the NFT projects, because there's a whole bunch of NFT projects where there's an information gap and they're not really understanding how this works and what the value add is to them. But if it's explained that actually you don't need to do a TGE, you don't need to launch your own token. You can actually launch a strategy token at a very low cost, but also it operates as a lead magnet, because people can buy $5, $10 worth of the strategy token to kind of warm them up as kind of like a one of those, I think in marketing, they call it a tripwire, which is basically you get them into your lower tier offer and it warms them up a little bit. Kind of the tripwire element is the bomb at the end, which is, I guess, the NFT in this weird messed up analogy. Yeah. But it's like it clips them into the tripwire, getting into the ERC20 token, which is good. Now they get a feel for it. They're in the Discord. They get a feel for the community, blah, blah, blah. They meet the founders. They go to the meetup. Then they think, I'll buy the NFT, because the NFT is the apex asset of the ecosystem.
The end game.
It's the end game. It's got the built-in supply friction. It's a contract, so they can add anything to the contract. Like Good Vibes Club is a great example of this. This is like, we bought a bit of Vibester. Now it was like, we interview the founder. Then, obviously they're in the US, so we can't meet up with them in person, but ordinarily we might if there was a meetup. And now the thought is, could we buy a Good Vibes Club NFT? The art's sick, and now we resonate with it. We're in the Discord and blah, blah, blah. So I think it's actually a very good marketing strategy, and it's very good for spreading IP with a low entry cost. It's got a low, and also because the project can market by their own token, there's price stability. And I've always said that the best marketing tool is price go up, and the worst marketing tool is price go down. And if you can control the price because you can market by your own token, where this becomes a whole bunch of 4D chess is, how are you going to buy your token? And if you are a profit generating business and you can just perpetually buy your own token, then it becomes like, hold on a second, I'm actually buying something that represents the productivity of the business, and now it's operating a bit like a stock. So now it becomes a weird fucking thing. You're like, hold on, I'm buying an NFT. This is like having a share in a company, because it's actually a leveraged bet on the productivity of the business if the business are market buying their token. So this is like some fucking now NFT investing is a different ball game. It's like, right, okay, you want to launch an NFT project. Are you making a profit as a business? Right. Okay. So you can now, but then if you've got the two, it then becomes a delta between the NFT price and the token and the coin. Because if the NFT is low, it's going to kill the token. It's actually the gap between the NFT and the token that makes that more valuable. And it's funny, Alexander, who's just messaged through, is the person that put that on my radar. So,
and Jayden, can I just say, I just had this vision of you doing exactly that on a date, a first date. And you're going, and then what you realize is that it's a perpetual machine, and it's like, and they're going, yeah,
Oh god.
fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Just see it. I can
It's
just
like
see the
the-
sketch. You
It's
doing
like
it.
it's like the meme of the guy in the nightclub talking into the girl's ear, and her face is just like that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care. I just don't care. It's that kind of thing. No, but also it does get people, it gets the community around something as well, doesn't it? It gets everyone focused. It's another thing to get behind, which can also be very powerful. People have a vested interest in what you're doing more generally.
Yeah,
The alignment.
exactly. Guys, I just want to kind of we're sort of coming to the end now. I know it's been a slightly quieter one on the drama front around NFTs and those sorts of things. But are you looking at any NFT projects at the moment? I can see that there's a couple new mints happening. The V Friends had a new mint.
Yes.
Anything that you guys are looking at leaning into new mints at the moment?
Well, yeah, I have that one actually. I'll share that one. It's the Nibbles. So I'll just refresh so that the graphics working. But yeah, VFriends. Sorry, so just to clarify, VFriends didn't have a new mint, but they had allow list spots, just like lots of other collections. I think Del Mundo's was also part of it. I think CryptoPunks, Pudgy, I'm sure were there. Good Vibes Club, all had these allow list spots for this mint called the project's called the Nibbles. It's made by a guy called Frankie the Frog. And it's a new collection that was minted in partnership, I think, with OpenSea. Interesting.
It's not Frankie Nines from Subducks.
No. Different Frankie. And right now, looks like it is about at the same level that it minted at. So it went slightly above that. Traded on secondary, slightly above that. This is all pre-reveal, and it's trading right now at about what it minted out at, which the mint price was 0.035, which I think some people were saying that's a little bit high for the market that we're currently in. It's an interesting one. Apparently, there's some decent people around. Simon, I'm interested. Do you know anything about this project or not really?
No, I minted one, just because I had this desire and need to do it because
you're a DJ.
Because I just have to do it. But actually, do you know what I did? I had enough there. I was thinking, I've got this little bit of money here I'm going to use. And I chose not to mint anymore so I could buy another Del Mundo's.
Oh, okay. So favoring Del Mundo's.
Simon, you must be one of the biggest whales in Del Mundo's, right?
I'm not. No, there are people with much more. I've got, without 71, but there are people who've got sort of 100 and something, and I can never see. I'm a small whale, a mini whale. Can you be a mini whale? I don't know if you can.
You can be a baby dolphin.
It's a dolphin. Yeah, it's a dolphin.
You can be a baby dolphin. We had this chat, didn't we?
That's legitimately the term in crypto, in NFTs.
Yeah.
When me and Birch,
young baby whale.
When me and Birch thought we were something in 2021, obviously when our NFTs were like a big
deal. You were
like,
reminded.
We don't really identify as whales in this ecosystem, but how about a mini dolphin? And
and it's actually, I think it's actually being picked up. Like that's generally, I think that's something that's a term that's used as well in NFTs and crypto.
We might have to patent it, mate, because
I didn't do any mint. I bought 3 or 4 days in, so I can safely say.
Oh, the Del Mundo's you did.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say just quickly, because I think it is important. I was going to have it under niche nuggets, and then I thought,
do your niche nuggets, son. I've still got my Burgess bangers.
This was just a giant nugget. Okay.
Okay.
I was working this morning.
One singular nugget. Golden nugget.
Singular. Well, I think it's big news, and I think it's going to prove to be, and that is Other Side's launch of Vibe Maker. So Yuga's launch into the other side, which is basically vibe coding, so that you can go in there right now. If you've got I think is it the MML creator role? I think that's what it is. You've got to have that. And
how do you get that?
Well, I put a note in Discord just saying, does anyone know how you get that role? And Michael Figgy got back immediately and said, we're just ironing out a few things. There's been a core group of people testing it and creating, but now they're going to roll it out more. And what I like about it is that it instantly can build 3D objects, just like vibe coding does. You describe in plain English or whatever language what you want. It'll create the 3D objects, the environments, full-blown mini games, anything you can design. And the weird thing is I've been using Replit, or Replit, which is this vibe coding platform, because without boring you to death, of course, I used to invent so many games and puzzle games, and the block was having to afford at that time when I was much younger, getting developers on board and even realizing the whole thing. And I made so many, then I went on to the next one. And of course, I went on to Replit, and within 3 hours, it built me something I was working with a university on that game you're looking at, Burge, to get the algorithm right. And that's the frightening thing. So I then did a little bit of a search on vibe coding within the other side, and it says, absolutely, it uses the same kind of language. You can go in there, you can create your games that you've already invented, your puzzle games, and you can place them in the other side to be played. And of course, what I'm loving about the other side is it's fast going to become a place where you create games, create experiences, have those experiences where you have meetups. You know, we could be in a bubble, couldn't we? One of their bubbles and streaming this, and it's going to have a marketplace where you can buy and sell. So it's in the way I was thinking about this, in the way that Elon Musk wants to make X this sort of everything app. I get the sense that the other side is going to be the everything 3D creator space. It's going to be
universe
world. In a much more absorbing and much more kind of enveloping and interactive way. So it's moving quick. So I'm really keen to start.
I think that is a big move. It's a big deal, isn't it? Because I think that it will still require people who want to build something to use it. It will still require, users and builders to actually, use that tool. But to have that tool available to, I don't know if it'll be everyone or maybe just NFT holders, but to have it widely available to the user base, I mean, the possibilities are endless. You don't know if the next person who creates the next viral thing could be in the other side.
And that's when the deeds come into play, because then you'll create this sort of all-encompassing world on your deed, which can be anything that your imagination decides it to be, because you could use the vibe coding to create everything you want. So it becomes a rich experience, becomes a monetized experience. And of course, Michael Figgy and the team are super hot on AI. They're way ahead of the curve, and the engineers. So I think it's big news. And I think it's gonna
That's
really
been a general theme with Yuga anyway. They're ahead of the curve with loads of things. I mean,
absolutely.
The release of ApeCoin was miles ahead of anything and obviously everyone's now doing that. I think they were like kind of the only during the time in the market, they were the only one able to provide holders any value, because it wasn't I guess not as saturated as it is now with people launching coins or whatever. So they do this stuff that's very early, very frontier, and it just takes a bit of time for whatever it is they're doing to play out. Burge, gonna end on your Burge's bangers, and then
let's do it.
But I just want to thank the 141 people who have joined us. We go live every Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. We kind of cover the events of the week, any gossip or anything like that. Somewhat ironically, we haven't had any comments through, which is unusual. Usually we get either Tomato or Tay or Amit or whatever. So it might be something wrong with the comments on there, but I'll double check that. But I'm going to quickly do a screen share. So this is Burge's Bangers. Take it away, my man.
Of course, let's do it. So starting off, we have some news in that Kraken has become the first crypto exchange to gain access to the Federal Reserve's core payment system. So it's got the same kind of rails now as to kind of settle payments as traditional banks do. So that's a big deal. That could be obviously it's not just going to be Kraken. It could just be, so Kraken's going to be the first, and then we might have other crypto exchanges following suit very shortly. You got Visa here, so as X, they love to put like dollar amounts on these different companies. So I think this is talking about $16 trillion that of money that flows through Visa. This guy is basically saying that they've just announced that they're going to launch crypto credit cards in over 100 countries. But obviously, the big news, we can't escape it, is the war. And so I just wanted to share a few pieces that I think are relevant to the listeners right now. So this was a piece of news basically saying that in the Strait of Hormuz, where all of these oil tankers are going through, that Iran was only allowing Chinese vessels to go through, and every other vessel it was going to attack. So obviously that's a big deal because a lot of the world's oil and gas goes through that strait. You had this big problem kind of talked about in this tweet here, where basically Lloyd's of London, Lloyd's of the UK, are a big kind of maritime insurance company, and they would insure a lot of these vessels, and they either jacked up the insurance prices or they weren't willing to insure them because of the situation right now in Iran and next to the Strait of Hormuz. And so Donald Trump actually came out and said, look, screw Lloyd's, screw these other insurance companies. I'm going to get the US to insure the vessels so that we can ensure that these vessels are going to keep going through the Strait of Hormuz and circulating the oil around the world. Because if obviously if the ships didn't get insurance, then they would just wait. They wouldn't go through the strait. And so Donald Trump coming out in a big way here and basically saying we're going to take on all the risk, which was seen as quite a positive sign, because it means that the US feels that like it has enough control to be able to defend these ships. But also it could be a little bit of posturing as well. Then this, just a very, very quick note, talking about a radar in an airbase in Qatar from the US. This was something that took $1.1 billion to make. Took multiple years to make this advanced radar in the Middle East that is owned by the US. Apparently was hit by an Iranian missile. So this is kind of what I was talking about earlier in terms of like how Iran with pretty cheap missiles or drones can inflict a lot of damage on the US and make this very costly war. And then lastly, just on the war, before we jump away from the war, is here's another kind of narrative to talk about, that not only is it oil and gas going through the Strait of Hormuz, but it's global fertilizer that goes, about a third of the world's global fertilizer goes through the Strait of Hormuz. And if there was a prolonged war and these vessels weren't going through and they weren't delivering that global fertilizer, then it could lead to a global food shortage. And then just quickly, I think, unless you want to jump in on that.
I love it. I'll just quickly, because I know it covers your face on there. I'm just going to chuck that on there. Tomatoes just said, I was late jumping on, but made it just in time for Birch Bangers.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did. Tomato, and I want Jayden and Sam to really weigh in here. I think this is a really interesting clip. It's only a minute long by Ray Dalio talking about Bitcoin. I really, really rate Ray Dalio. But this was an interesting take from him on Bitcoin.
Okay, so Bitcoin does not have privacy. Any transactions can be monitored and then indirectly perhaps controlled. Central banks are not going to want to buy Bitcoin and being able to hold it. So it's not just individuals, it's institutions and so on, but most, and central banks, so that there are attributes of that. There has been some question or thoughts of the development of, new technologies like quantum computing and so on. Can there be issues regarding that? And then there's, who owns it and what are the other exposures that they have in their portfolio. It tends to have a pretty high correlation with the tech stocks. So from an ownership, just the supply demand is affected by if somebody gets squeezed in one thing, they sell something that whatever else they have. So there are those dynamics. It's a long way, and it's a relatively small market. That's a relatively controllable market. I think a lot of attention has been given to Bitcoin, but as a money, it's small in relationship to gold, and so those are the dynamics. There is only one gold.
What about silver?
So he's kind of coming out in this kind of a little bit of a bearish manner, which in fairness, I mean, it's not really him trading. It's not really him changing up, because I don't think Ray Dalio has ever taken a bullish kind of POV of crypto. He's kind of stayed quite away from crypto, but he's kind of coming out with some of these bearish points of, well, central banks won't want to buy Bitcoin. There's that quantum computing issue, which we've discussed before. And I think, Michael Saylor talks actually against that, because he says a lot of money is going in to make sure Bitcoin is safe.
Yeah.
And that
it's a while off.
Yeah, it's a while off. And if there was any kind of innovation, there would be tons of money in behind the Bitcoin Foundation or whoever, ensuring that Bitcoin is made safe first. And then he's saying it's a relatively small market, it's a relatively small size as a currency, and comparing it to gold. Well, I mean, yes, but over the last, 10 years, it's grown from infinitesimally small to, I think, the 8th largest asset in the world. So I don't know. I'm usually a massive fan of Ray Dalio, but don't feel like he has quite got the grip of what Bitcoin is promising here.
Yeah. Tom, you want me to dive in, or you got any thoughts? I mean,
you go for it.
I one of my very first blogs that went monumentally viral was about Ray Dalio. It got 500,000 reads on Medium. It went so astronomically viral that his Instagram got 25,000 new followers. And
wow.
The post I wrote about was about a video he had posted. He then deleted it. So this gets back to him, Ray Dalio. So I know my stuff on Ray Dalio anyway. He's the best hedge fund manager in the world, and he comes from a traditional finance background. And what a lot of these TradFi folks do is I'm not saying he's doing this, but he was asked a question in that interview comparing it to gold. And the problem is that he looks at the I guess he looks at the elements comparatively. Firstly, Bitcoin being a currency, which it's not, because people don't treat it like a currency. A currency is something that needs to be more fluid, that people want to let go of, but people don't want to let go of something that they anticipate that's going to go up in price. So the kind of comparison to it being a currency is irrelevant. This guy, being one of the best hedge fund managers in the world, probably manages far in excess of whatever the market cap at the 1.5 trillion or whatever Bitcoin is. So it probably is small to him at the moment. And I just remind me of some of the other things that he brought up in there.
He said central
privacy.
He said because it was a public ledger and you could see every transaction, people wouldn't, like, central banks wouldn't want to get involved because it's all public and it's not it's not really private.
Frank, that's their problem. And it sounds funny to say, good, if banks don't want to, that's up to them. There are the feature, or the whole point of Bitcoin is it's transparent, it is decentralized, it is a public ledger. And I guess you have got ETFs and other mechanisms if you want to bypass a bit of the whole sense of, like, people seeing what you personally own or transfer. But I think and I know we want to get everyone in and banks to embrace it, but I also think that's kind of part of the beauty of what Bitcoin is, isn't it? The things that he's saying are a bit of a challenge are, I thought, the point.
Just feels like he's, I don't know, he's not like being given, like he's not taught to someone who really knows what Bitcoin is and has told and kind of educate. He's like, it's like he's missing half the education. He's coming at it like Bitcoin when it was used, like when it was first created, and people were using it to buy a pizza. And he's saying like, oh, it's a currency. Oh, it's not. It's people use it as a store of value. They use it as a digital gold.
They are, yeah. The thing about it is that a lot of these guys who have opinions on it are wealthy, and what he's missing is the fact that it's giving people hope. The anticipation of something that can 10x. A lot of these, like the Kathy Woods and the Michael Saylors are saying, look, it can go up to 1 million. And people are doing the math in their head, and it's like, hold on, when Bitcoin was down at 55 or 50 grand, that's a 20x. There's nothing that they're going to invest in the stock market that's going to do a 20x. So people cling on to that hope. And what it's giving a lot of people, crypto does the same. These parabolic price rises give people hope. You give people hope that they can get out of whatever situation they're in. And when someone, especially from the TradFi world, who earns a lot of money, gives his opinion on it, and it's fine, it's fair enough. He's given his view on it, and he's a very smart guy. But the bit he misses is that it's hope for a lot of people.
It is. And also not just hope. For some people, it's ownership. At a very basic level, it's I can't opt in to the current financial system. I can't even get a bank account for those people. And so it has a really, really fundamental hope. But it's based less on, I'm sure it would be, it is based on, will it go up? But for some people, it's that this is my chance to actually get part of something and be part of the financial system, part of ownership in real terms.
The last thing I wanted to share is just this this post from Vitalik. And I think this is a really interesting one. I definitely think so basically what Vitalik is saying around Ethereum is, there's lots going on in the world right now. He's talking about government control, surveillance, wars. And he's essentially saying that he wants Ethereum to be a bit more of a shining light in the world, and to have a bit more impact than what it's currently having. So he's saying, for example, there's technologies out there that are really making a difference. Starlink, he says, for example, locally run LLMs, Signal, the app Signal, which is kind of like Telegram, community notes on X. He's saying these are all, innovations and technologies that are helping the world. And he kind of wants Ethereum to take more of a role in trying to be progressive and trying to help the world. So it's a really interesting a tweet. If you want to find it, it's on Vitalik's profile to check it out, and you can read it all. I'm probably doing a bad job summarizing it, but essentially, he's saying like, he knows Ethereum. It's not like Ethereum can fix the world, and it's definitely, it's obviously constricted in what it is, Ethereum being, a cryptocurrency. But he thinks there's a little bit more that they can do with Ethereum to help, to help in the world. And he talks about he talks here about wanting to create this digital space. He wants to. He said, I think. Basically, he finishes on this. He finishes on, look, the tech is worthless without the users. He feels like there's a lot of users on Ethereum, and that they should be utilizing that user base a bit more. And he's saying he doesn't want to try and be like Apple or Google. And he's essentially, look, I think it's this, to summarize the whole post, he's feeling a little bit, he doesn't have too much control of all these massive, like, different things that are changing the world, that are going on in the world. And he's feeling like Ethereum, the thing he's built, can have more of an impact in the world. And I think that's so it'd be really interesting to track this over the next 1 to 3 years, in terms of what that actually will look like. Will Ethereum take more of a innovative role? Will the foundation back, innovative projects? I don't know, with capital behind it. I don't know.
Sounds altruistic, and it sounds
Yes.
like he wants it to be a force for good, and he's looking at what's happening in the world, and he's thinking, you've got a number of ways you can use technology, and the best one is when you really use it for real tangible good. And I don't want to get drawn into a space where we don't do that. We've got to keep our eyes focused on that horizon. That seems to be his message, which is great.
No, I love that.
It is. That's what you want a founder to be like. I mean, that's the difference between Ethereum and Bitcoin, because Bitcoin obviously has no founder. It's Satoshi Nakamoto, but he's not there. So obviously there's a downside. There's a downside risk, which is, the upside for Bitcoin is that no one can really, no one can control it. No one can make it. No one can ruin it, the reputation. But when you have a good leader and a good creator and a good founder, and what I think is in Vitalik, which is someone who's clearly very technical, knows a lot of stuff, but I think he has a good heart. At least reading this post, it seems to support that. So I feel like when you have someone like that, that's a positive. And it'll be really interesting to see what that will mean in the future.
Yeah, I mean,
can we also ask him to make our NFTs go up as well?
Yeah, I did. I commented right underneath. I said, make NFTs go up now.
Yeah. Can you tell him to stop selling his Ethereum, considering he is...
Yes, true.
Founder. Forget about it being a force for good. Can we just force the NFTs up? NFTs?
Stop trading Ethereum, please, Vitalik. Guys, we're just obviously coming to the end here. 157 in the live stream. Really appreciate all of you tuning in. Burge, really appreciate you covering your Burge bangers. And Simon, really appreciate you tuning in from your office, which you've leased for £300 every 30 minutes. But hopefully this doesn't get you in trouble. Guys, if you want to listen to the recording of this, you can go to carrotlane.com/subscribe. Just check your email address in and I'll send it to you later on today. Or you'll probably find the snippets of whatever's happening across the timeline. Really appreciate the guys who share and comment. Tomato, Amit, Mike, Tay, a whole bunch of others. Really appreciate you getting involved. But we're going to leave it there until next week. Really appreciate it, guys. Really enjoyed this one. And we'll catch you next week. Cheers.
Take care, everyone.